blunder after blunder. Joe Biden is not all there. He's not all there. He's gone. I mean, look, this is getting ridiculous, and someone has got to start thinking about the 25th Amendment. He is clearly not up to the job. Now, this embarrassing tour continues in Europe. It looks like he signaled he was sending the troops, the American troops he was talking to, this is the 82nd Airborne in Poland, told them that they're basically going to war in Ukraine. Listen to what he said.
And you're going to see when you're there, and some of you have been there, you're going to see women, young people standing in the middle of front of a damn tank, just saying, I'm not leaving. I'm holding my ground. They're incredible.
I'm concerned for a lot of reasons. Number one, he's talking about Ukraine, and women and men and children have been standing in front of the tanks. That's where it's happening, in Ukraine. All right, we've seen that. Back to Joe Biden, though. Is he telling these troops they're going to see that because they're going in? Is that his plan? That concerns me. It also concerns me, if that's not his plan, that he's making this horrific mistake. Again, where are they going to go and what are they going to see?
And you're going to see when you're there, and some of you have been there, you're going to see women, young people standing in the middle of front of a damn tank, just saying, I'm not leaving. I'm holding my ground. They're incredible.
That is impressive. But what are you talking about? This is dangerous stuff. This is jeopardizing our national security. Big chunk of me fears that this is his plan, committing us to a ground war potentially, maybe to get our attention off of his obvious woes back here in America, our obvious woes. I'm not sure. The mistakes, every time he talks, he makes a big one. Now, the man off to the left there is his Secretary of Defense, a former general by the name of Lloyd Austin. Listen to how he describes him.
The reason why when the Secretary of State asked me if I'd send another 12,000 troops along to the United States, I said, yeah, from the United States.
All right, the general, again, General Lloyd Austin, is the Secretary of Defense, not the Secretary of State. He can't keep his people straight. By the way, the troops, they sense that something is wrong. You could hear a pin drop. He's talking to the troops, not making much sense, and I mean, they offered him courtesy, but they don't respect him.
Mother's maiden name. So how many of you had to change your names? Let me know, okay? See if I can help. You can smile, man. I'm okay. Where are you from? I'm from Arkansas. Where in Arkansas? Anyway, thank you. And are you finished eating or just starting?
They're starting eating. They're doing a little bit closer.
Well, if you're starting to eat, I'm going to sit down and have something to eat. Is that all right?
Yeah. We got the pizza. There you go. That one has jalapenos. This one has cheese.
All right, so what do you think there? Everyone's watching him. He's not making much sense. And like an awkward kid in a cafeteria who isn't really in any particular clique, he's not in with the jocks, he's not in with the academics, he doesn't know where to sit. Finally, he sits with them. And then it gets really strange. These are troops. They're supposed to eat first. They don't have any food, but he gets the pizza. He gets the pizza and he digs right in as nobody else has anything to eat. Now, you tell me, I think these troops are, well, they're not impressed. Now, look at the guy on the left. He can't figure this guy out. The guys in the back there, they're aghast, I believe, at the behavior from the so-called commander-in-chief. Am I being too hard on them? On the president here, I actually don't think so. In the military, again, it is protocol for the junior people to eat first. And you see, all the food and drink is in front of Joe. Everybody is waiting for the pizza pies to be delivered to them, eventually. Now, you compare this to how Donald Trump, how he was greeted by the troops overseas. You see the difference? Now, you could say, well, wait a second. Melania's on the stage, and they had music, and it's like a rally. What happens when Donald Trump drops by the mess hall, just like Joe Biden did? Watch. You notice? Everybody on their feet right away. That's impressive. That is, that's affection. That's respect. Joe Biden and the troops? I'm sorry. This is just lame. This is just sad. This is just, next picture, cold. This is not leadership. Not leadership. And also, one thing the military really values, integrity. You don't boast about things you haven't done. That's stolen valor. And Joe Biden did that, even today, not for the first time.
I've been in and out of Iraq and Afghanistan about 40 times, 30 sometimes.
All right, number one, we've spoken about this before. When one of these politicians boasts about how many times they've been to Iraq, that bothers me because I've been there like 2 or 3 times, but for long stays. Most soldiers, when they go to Iraq, were there for a year, 6 months. They count it as one deployment. He counts his 6-hour trips, his 12-hour trips as, you know, an entire tour. So he said 38, 40 times. What's the real answer? 21 times. All right, 21 times. And if you added it all up, I mean, really, it would not equal 21 days. It would be far less. Some of those trips were for a matter of hours. Is that the fake news just doesn't get it, do they? This is wild, even for them. Wow. So Joe Biden has made some of the biggest gaffes in the history of presidential politics over the past couple of days, ever since he's become president, really. But this one was so overt, and the media's covering up their spin of his screw-ups. It'll take your breath away. So Joe Biden, out of the blue, again said sanctions were never to deter. Sanctions are designed to deter. Everybody knows that. But Joe said the opposite.
Sir, deterrence didn't work. What makes you think Vladimir Putin will alter course based on the action you've taken today?
Let's get something straight. You remember, if you covered me from the very beginning, I did not say that, in fact, the sanctions would deter him. Sanctions never deter. You keep talking about that. Sanctions never deter. The maintenance of sanctions, the increasing the pain, and the demonstration why I asked for this NATO meeting today is to be sure that after a month we will sustain what we're doing, not just next month, the following month, but for the remainder of this entire year. That's what will stop him.
You believe the actions today will have an impact on making Russia change course in Ukraine?
That's not what I said. You're playing a game with me. I know. The answer is no.
Playing a game. He's wrong. He's angry and wrong. 1,000% wrong. And here's the proof.
Purpose of the sanctions has always been and continues to be deterrence.
The purpose of the sanctions, in the first instance, is to try to deter Russia from going to war.
The president believes that sanctions are intended to deter. They're meant to prevent and deter a large-scale invasion.
We want them to have a deterrent effect.
The sanctions are designed in the first instance to try to deter Russia from taking further aggression,
as well as our efforts to both try to deter Russia through sanctions.
If you pull the trigger on that deterrent, well, then it doesn't exist anymore as a deterrent.
Okay, so the mainstream media, they live for moments like this, especially the White House press corps. Well, the president said this, and this is short of what the administration has said. Now, this is egregious, but even like under Trump, they'd either make it up or make a small difference a huge difference and bang the drum relentlessly. This, again, is under Trump. Take a look.
President Trump undermines his own advisor and a key ally and sides with Kim Jong-un.
And President Trump contradicting virtually every health official in his administration.
President Trump undermining his own CDC director.
President Trump contradicts his own administration.
President Trump contradicts his staff and then himself on Russia.
President Trump contradicts his top doctor again.
President Trump contradicting his own national security advisor on North Korea.
All right, and on and on and on like that. So now they have Joe Biden clearly in contradiction with his own administration. So what do? They cover for him, they ignore it, and they spin. First up, ABC News. Now they have all their White House reporters over there following the president in his every single move. They did not mention one word about this massive discrepancy. They covered every move of Joe Biden without the obvious blunder. CBS, they tried something else. They kind of included it, but basically spun for Joe Biden. Listen.
Sanctions never deter.
The president admitted the crippling international sanctions imposed so far may be wrecking Russia's economy, but they haven't forced Putin to change course yet.
We will sustain what we're doing, not just next month, the following month, but for the remainder of this entire year. That's what will stop him.
President Biden heads closer to the invasion zone tomorrow.
Yeah, actually, massive, no mention, none. Where are the gongs? Where's the breaking news? NBC did a similar stunt.
So far, the U.S. and NATO allies have unleashed significant sanctions against Russia for the invasion. But those penalties have not deterred Putin, something the White House and Vice President Harris initially said was the goal. Today, the president bristling when asked if that strategy was not working.
I did not say that, in fact, the sanctions would deter him. Sanctions never deter. You keep talking about that. Sanctions never deter. The maintenance of sanctions, the increasing the pain, that's what will stop him.
And Kristen joining me here in Brussels right now. The president heading to Poland tomorrow.
There's president getting on a plane tomorrow. We won't talk anything about the massive discrepancy in what he was saying and what his team was saying for months. Kristen Welker and Lester Holt, have they ever covered up and spun for Democrats before? You betcha.
African-American communities are being decimated by crime.
Your 2 minutes expired, but I do want to follow up. Stop and frisk was ruled unconstitutional in New York because it largely singled out black and Hispanic young men.
No, you're wrong. It went before a judge who was a very against police judge. It was taken away from her, and our new mayor, refused to go forward with the case.
Here's the worst part. Lester Holt interrupting and fact-checking ignorantly. He did Candy Crowley 5 times, and the one that got me the most is Stop and Frisk. He doesn't know
explain it. You know it well.
He doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right, the argument that Lester Holt raised is that it was ruled unconstitutional. It wasn't. Explain what happened.
It was not ruled unconstitutional. It was ruled unconstitutional as applied, not unconstitutional. Stop and frisk is perfectly constitutional in all of the United States today.
So what was the issue in New York?
Lester Holt gave absolutely the wrong impression, and he had no right to do that.
So what was it? What happened?
What happened was, after 20 years of stop and frisk, a federal judge, not my program, but Mayor Bloomberg and Ray Kelly's program, 12 years later, found it unconstitutional as applied because there were too many people and too few successes. The Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, Michael Bloomberg appealed. The Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit enjoined the enforcement of the case, removed the judge from the case, and said that the judge was prejudiced against the police. When Mayor de Blasio took over, he withdrew the appeal.
Stop, question, frisk, which the Supreme Court of the United States has found to be constitutional. The fact that fewer guns are on the street now shows that our efforts have been successful.
Stop and frisk was ruled unconstitutional in New York.
Oh, you're wrong.
Has found to be constitutional.
Lester Holt interrupting and fact-checking ignorantly.
And on the biggest stage imaginable in 2016, Lester Holt was protecting Hillary. He was getting facts wrong, challenging President Trump on the facts when President Trump was right, and Lester was dead wrong. And of course, Kristen Welker, more recently in the 2020 debate, both from NBC News, by the way, running defense for Joe Biden, trying to get the conversation off the laptop, back onto race and climate change. Yeah,
I have not had the only guy made money from China is this guy. He's the only one. Nobody else has made money from China.
President Trump, let me ask my question to you.
But could I just one thing?
Very quickly.
His son didn't have a job for a long time, was sadly no longer in the military service. I won't get into that. I hear they paid him $183,000 a month. Listen to this. $183,000, and they gave him a $3 million upfront payment.
All right.
And he had no energy.
I'm going to let the Vice President respond to that quickly, and then I need to get
dishonest.
to a question to you. Very
No
quickly.
basis for that. Everybody investigated that. No one said anything he did was wrong.
And we're allowed to have concerns no matter what the fake news says.
Call it what you want to call it, but if you're trying to throw out a presidential election because you lost, that's overthrowing American democracy.
Ease up, Charlie. No, it's not. Actually, concerns about fairness in elections, they've been around for a long time. Now let's go inside the Electoral Count Act of 1887, and it says quite clearly, if you have an objection, every objection shall be made in writing and be signed by at least one senator and one member of the House of Representatives before the same shall be received. It provided a forum to debate if the election was fair or not. It's in the law, and that's what the fake news doesn't want us to know. But there it is. Democrats, by the way, have tried to use this many times. Let's go back to the year 2000. They couldn't pull it off because they couldn't get a senator to cooperate. But plenty of House members stood up and said, we don't like this election and we object. Take a look.
Mr. President, it is in writing and signed by several House colleagues on behalf and myself of the 27,000 voters of Duval County, in which 16,000 of them are African Americans that was disenfranchised in this last election.
The gentlewoman will suspend. The question, the part of the question that I'll put again is the objection signed by a member of the Senate?
Not signed by a member of the Senate. The Senate is missing.
She was behaving within the law. She had concerns about the fairness of the election. She voiced them and wrote them down. She needed a senator for the debate to continue. There wasn't one. Now let's fast forward to 2016. Jamie Raskin, remember him? He's still around. Democrat from Maryland. He tried it. Didn't work, but he tried.
I have an objection because 10 of the 29 electoral votes cast by Florida were cast by electors not lawfully certified.
Is the objection in writing and signed not only by the member of the House of Representatives, but also by a senator?
It is in writing, Mr. President.
Is it signed by a senator?
Not as of yet, Mr. President.
In that case, the objection cannot be entertained.
So, you see where this is going. They tried. They couldn't pull it off. In 2020, the concerns about the election were much more widespread. So, not only members of Congress, but senators were willing to put it in writing and stand up to be heard.
I, Paul Gosar from Arizona.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Arizona rise?
I rise up for myself and 60 of my colleagues to object to the counting of the electoral ballots from Arizona.
Is the objection in writing and signed by a senator?
Yes, it is.
It is.
You see? And that was in the morning on January 6th. They were successful at doing what Democrats have been trying for 20 years. So what do? They let them inside. You see what went down? They let the protesters inside to stop what had been successfully started. Not to start something, but to stop something. There's ample evidence, and that's my belief. And yeah, maybe we need a commission. But you see what actually happened? They were let in not to start something, but to stop something. And shooting that young girl, you'd have to stop it at that point. You'd have to. You see? Does it make sense?